All right, we're catching a swarm today, and there's some equipment you're going to need. Quite often the beekeeper finds himself unprepared to catch a swarm. They've got an extra super that they're not currently using, but they don't have a lid or a bottom. And if you're going to crawl up on top of a ladder, it'd be nice to have that bottom board screwed onto the hive body so you don't have a disaster. So let's get our equipment ready, and then we're going to catch a swarm. The thing that's unusual about this swarm is it's August, and typically swarm season is April and May. And it's not uncommon to get a swarm in June, but usually swarm season is done by June. So remember the saying, if a swarm in July isn't worth a fly. I don't know what a swarm is worth in August. We're going to have to feed them something to get them up to speed to make it through the winter. Or you'll probably have to take some honey from one of your other colonies if you have one and feed them that, which means less surplus for you. All right, so I'm going to tip this. The easiest way to make sure your bottom board stays on is with screws, and then if you ever need to take it off, it's easy enough to do. You only need 2 of them on there, and I like to look and see if there's any knot holes in the hive that the bees are using for an entrance or cracks, and put that in the front. Get it on there nice and square. If you tip the box up with frames in it, they'll bind themselves in there, in a deep box anyway, so you don't have the frame scattered all over the place. You tip it up that way. All right, we have our lid. Typically won't take the lid up the ladder, right? We'll leave it down here. Come over here and let's see where the swarm is. So here's the situation we had. The bees swarmed and they landed up in up in this tree. So when we shook the bees out of there, they didn't stay into the box. They took off and they flew over and they landed in this little peach tree. So that's similar to another swarm we caught before. That's okay for us. That's even better because this is closer to the ground. It's a lot easier to catch the swarms when they're close to the ground. You never know. Every time you catch a swarm, it's different. It may be way up on the top of a tree. They might be on the ground. So this is going to be easy enough. I don't think we'll have to cut any branches. We're just going to set this box right underneath them and shake them off into the box. All right, inside the box we've got some honey. That'll entice them in. And some drawn comb. There's some foundation in here too, but if they can smell the wax, they'll be enticed into the hive and they'll go in. So you want to catch your swarm because if they leave, you're losing money, you're losing potential honey crop, you're losing your bees, right? So we want to catch them and put them back in a box, and there's an 80% chance that if a swarm leaves and tries to find a new location, they'll die. Only 20% of the feral swarms anyway actually live. So we want to catch them first of all to save the bees, right? But we also want to catch them because it's a potential resource that's just going to fly away, and we'll lose our honey crop, we'll lose our bees, and so we don't want that to happen. Bees typically are nice when they're swarming. They're not defending their hive. They've left home, and so they're not that aggressive. However, I have gotten stung before catching swarms, so you might want to put your hat on, like I'm going to do in just a sec. If I were going to cut the branches off of this tree to drop them in, maybe I'd take half of these frames out, so I'd have room to cut the branch and set the whole branch inside here. The queen's pheromones are on the branch where she landed, so if I shake them off, they're going to go back up to the branch. So that's not a bad idea. We don't want to hurt this little peach tree. It's just getting going good, so I think we can get the bees off of it without having to trim it, having to prune it at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave all of the 10 frames in this 10 frame box, and I'm going to slide it right underneath. If I can put this directly underneath the cluster, before I shake them, it'll work well. You can see on there bees are dancing. Those are the scout bees that are out looking for a new spot, and they're trying to decide which is the best location to move into. We're going to disrupt that and offer them the best location for everybody. When we catch a swarm, we quite often try to guess on the size of the swarm based on a comparison. Is it beach ball size? Is it the size of a basketball, football, softball? If it's the size of a softball, they're almost not worth catching. It's just not enough bees to get started. They've lost their momentum, especially this time of year. If they're this size, I mean, that swarm's got to be at least, I'm guessing 6 or 8 pounds of bees in there. They're barely going to fit in one 10-frame length box. So these are most definitely worth catching right now. And if there's a nectar flow on, they'll really get busy. That's a lot of workforce that could capitalize on a nectar source right now. All right, I'm going to put on my hat. We're going to get the smoker started, and then we're going to shake the tree and just drop them all right into this box. And then we're probably going to have to wait for 30 minutes or something for them to settle down and all crawl in. And then we'll probably move them.
Setting up the phone so we can hopefully get a fun shot of them falling on the camera.
So I'm just going to grab onto the biggest branch right around the bees here. Careful not to put my hands on any of the bees. And I'm right above, I've got the colony right above the box. The swarm is right above the box. And I'm going to give them a shake. Ready?
Hmm?
Should we have a countdown?
Yep.
3,
2, 1,
go.
Shake. Shake. Okay. They just went for it. Okay. They are going to need to regroup. Hopefully the queen made it in there and her pheromone is in the hive and not still on the branch. But this is what a swarm looks like when it's going to. This wild flight behavior. They're really gentle right now, but you can see that it's kind of a vortex.
Watch. 3, 2,
1,
go.
shake.
I'm going to put the lid back on top so they don't take to the air. It'll be a little darker in there. A couple of things to notice. So the bees are nasonoving. Now I've disturbed them. They've got their tails in the air and they're fanning their wings, saying, everybody get back together again. Here there's been another disturbance. And so you see lots of bees are just kind of wandering around there looking for where the pheromone is. They're picking up on the pheromone trail so they can follow the hive. A lot of bees are crawling in the entrance. It'd be nice if those bees were crawling in the entrance instead of under the box, but we'll deal with that in a minute. I'm going to set this lid on just kind of sideways, leaving plenty of space for the bees to, and I'll set it down gently here, and I'll move it around here so we don't squash any bees as I do this. So we're going to leave the corners open. Now the bees can crawl in, but it's a little darker in there like they're used to. Feel more like home. And now we just wait. We're going to wait for them. It might take 30 minutes for all the bees to crawl in there and settle down. After dark, we can pick these bees up and put them right back next to the hive they came out of if we want to. they're not oriented on this spot, and they won't be for another day or so. So you can move this hive just across to the other side of the yard if you want, rather than have to move it miles away. My recommendation is, as soon as these bees are all in the box and settle down, I put it in the truck and I move it just in case they decide they don't want to stay there. If you've moved them, then they're going to arrive at their new location and they'll say, oh, looks like I don't remember how we got here, but we're at our new spot. We'll just stay right here. All right, so far we haven't really used any smoke on these bees, but you can use to drive them a little bit. Those bees are hanging on the dirt clods and rocks over there. We can get them off of that, unfixed on that location, and crawling back into the hive a little quicker. If we drive them with a little bit of smoke, I can push them towards the box. And if there's some bees coming up onto the branch, back up on the branch where they just came out of, you put a little smoke up there. That'll discourage them from going up there. All right, if the queen was outside the box, you'd see a bees in a fairly good-sized cluster hanging on, and they're not now. They're all in the box. I'm pretty sure the queen's in there. We're going to pick them up and move them. Reason the bees swarm this time of year is maybe a little bit of a puzzle why they would swarm this time of year. So typically, though, the bees are too crowded. They've filled up their boxes and they don't have enough space. When they feel crowded, they're inclined to move or swarm. About 2/3 of the bees in the box will take off with the old queen, and they'll leave some new virgin queens or cells with virgin queens about to emerge in the box. And sometimes bees will move, though, for other reasons. They'll swarm because they don't like their current location. There may be something bothering them. If they have got a visit by a skunk every night, maybe that's a reason why, or they're getting hit by a sprinkler, or there's too much vibration from heavy equipment on a road or trucks or something like that. They just don't like the location for some reason, then they'll swarm. So we're going to go look in the hive that this swarm came out of here in a minute and see if we can't get a few more clues on why they left. We'll look and see how crowded they are, how much honey they are. We'll look for queen cells. First of all, we're assuming that this came out of a colony nearby. It may have come from somewhere else in the neighborhood, we don't know. We'll go do some investigation and find out. In the box, bees. Come on, get in the box. There we go. I'm going to move that whole box back a little bit so these bees that are underneath can crawl on the porch. Yeah, I don't want to drag it, I'll smash a bunch of bees. I got to pick it up and move it backward. Okay.
Oh, it wasn't as many bees as I thought were underneath.
Yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot underneath. We can get them off of that tree there. If I can brush them off. Let me get my bee brush.
Okay, so the moral of the story is that we sweep the bees toward the hive, yeah?
Right, we can use our smoker to drive them.
Oh, look at them. They're like mass exodus into the...
Yep, they got their marching orders now. They're heading right for the entrance. There's always a chance that the bees won't stay put in the box that we just put them in. So we're going to move them just in case. I'm pretty sure they're going to stay put if we move them some distance away, at least a mile. So we're going to load these up right in the middle of the day, put them in the truck, head down the road. So this is easier, more or less, for you to do in a truck, right? We wouldn't want to load all these crawling bees into your car right now, like you did when you picked up a nuke. But we're out in the country, and there's only one stoplight in town. We're going to load them up and make a run for it. Any bees that are still flying are going to fly back to the colony that they just came out of. So I wouldn't be worried about moving these bees in the middle of the day. All right, so most of the time we don't move bees in the middle of the day, but there's a few exceptions. We gave you some of those, like wintertime or when it's raining. But in the middle of a sunny day, bees are going to be flying out of your box, and you don't want to really close up the box because you could suffocate them and overheat them. But we're going to leave the box open, all right? Any bees that are out flying that get left behind are going to go right back to the colony that they just swarmed out of. So I'm not too concerned about moving these bees in the middle of the day. there's still bees hanging on the front of the box, but they shouldn't go anywhere. We don't want to squash those bees right there. We're going to move them out of the way. They'll either crawl into this box or they'll fly back to the hive they just came out of.
Okay, the new lid doesn't have any propolis on it, so we need to strap it down so we don't lose it along the way. Okay, this hive is ready to go to its new temporary home for a few days. That is it for our swarm catching video, but don't miss part 2 where Stan inspects the hive that the swarm came from to try to figure out why the swarm happened in the first place in August. You won't want to miss it. It's really good.